Welcome to Defining the Directory, an Alexio short course. Your directory has really two parts to it. A printed directory, which is the report R1090, and an online directory. Let's first talk about the printed directory and answer the question, who appears in the printed directory? The first question you have to look at is, has that person opted out of the directory? This could be something that they do in the portal, if you're using the portal, or you have done on their individual people record. So the first question, has the person opted out of the directory? If they have opted out, they will not appear in this report. Now, if they have not opted out, then it begins a process of understanding what statuses are displaying in this directory report. So first thing you want to look at is, what is the person's status? Then determine if that status is a part of the status group that will be used or is being used as a filter for report R1090. Let's take a look at where all this is and where these settings are in the database itself. On a person's record, in the privacy section, you would see an indication here of a box being checked, include this person in the directory. That is that first question. Have they opted out? If they've opted out via the portal, this box will be deselected. Now, you always can go back in and recheck it, but they do have that power in the portal. And then, of course, status is the other thing we're talking about. So that's the starting point. Has the person opted out, and what is their status? Understanding status grouping, you'll need to go to the administration area and then codes and look at your lookup codes, which encompass your statuses. So I'm there now. I'm focused in on this particular status, which is member-100. These are my possible status groupings. I have member 100 included in the broad group called all attenders. I also have it included in the broad group called members, and you'll see some others. With any one of these statuses, you can mark what broad grouping it's included in. So if I'm focused on regular attender, you can see it's not part of the members broad group. Then when you go to run R1090, the directory report, you notice that your initial filter is on status group. So right now, if I leave it as members, people in my database marked as regular attenders will not be displayed. Once you run R1090, the printed directory report, there are some nuances to understand what is happening with the display. If you have a family where one or the other of the spouses has opted out and the other has not, keep in mind that the household name is what will appear. So in this case, if we look down at this family, Jack and Stephanie Adair, Stephanie has opted out of the directory, Jack has not, but they're both showing, in a sense, because the household name is what prints here. Let's look at William and Clarissa Abbey here. Clarissa is being listed as a separate entry, and the reason is that we have opted, when we chose to run this report, to display email and mobile phone number. Well, in my case, William, we don't have a mobile phone number or email address for William. We only have one for Clarissa. So she's getting a separate listing here, but it's just because we need to identify that this is her email and her mobile number. If we go back and we change the options and we display none of those things, well, we can display home phone because that's a shared field. We run it. Now we're seeing a different look here. Same record, William and Clarissa Abbey, but because we haven't said, hey, give me an email or mobile phone number, she's not being pulled out as a separate item. Your directory will certainly be a reflection of the accuracy and the level of detail you have in your data. Let's review that again. People will appear in R1090 if they have not opted out of the directory, if they have a status that's part of the status group that you're using as a filter. Now let's turn our attention to the online directory. Again, it does go back to status, and it goes to opted out. So people with statuses that are part of a particular group called include in online directory and have not opted out of the directory. We'll have them appearing in the online directory. Let's take a look at this group called include in online directory. We are back to our setup area for status. If we look in again here at regular attender, we have an option to include statuses in status groupings. Multiple. Regular attender is included in all attenders. It's included in the group called everyone in the database except deceased. And you'll notice it's included in the group called include in online directory. To draw a difference, we have people with a status of attended one time. As you can see, the only group they're included in is this general, very large notation of everyone in the database except deceased. You would not want all of your visitors to immediately appear in your online directory. Typically, that's your regular attenders and all of your membership levels. I've returned to the reports area. I'll make one comment about the directory report and another about a completely different report that you might want to work with. R1090, as you saw when we ran it, is going to display this information in true directory format with headings based on alphabetic indications using last name. So big sections for A, B, and on down. If you want to run this report and you want to ignore really everything that I just discussed in terms of filtering down, there is an option to run the directory and include everyone. Again, it would ignore even their choice to not be included. It would ignore anything related to status. So you certainly do not want to use that option for if your church is printing a directory and handing that out, because again, it ignores all of the privacy filters and even your own choice for filtering. But it is an option. Another report that can be very useful if you're just trying to work with all the people in your database and you want to begin to hone in on people that meet certain criteria. The directory report actually might be limiting in that regard. There is a great report. It is called the People List. The People List is FCR 3101. And by default, if you don't apply any other filter, it's going to run this report and list everyone in your database. So it would be upon you to use the field chooser and then the ensuing filters that correlate to narrow this list down. But it would work in some ways like a directory. If I choose to run this report, it does not appear in its display like we saw for the directory report. In other words, people are not being grouped by the initial of their last name. They are being sorted by default alphabetically, but you can change that. You really have complete control. The people list is a fantastic starting point for a lot of things. Meaning you might want to create custom reports and do a variety of queries on certain fields. This would be an excellent report to start with. But it also works in some ways like a directory report. With the existence of the portal and choices that we've already discussed that people could make online to remove themselves from the directory, it is beneficial to know what changes are being made in the portal. You can run, if you're in the directory folder, you'll see this report called Data Changes Made in the Portal, and that's exactly what it is. You set a date parameter, then you run this report, and it will give you a detailed listing of what happened in the portal. So what was the update, when was it done, and who did it associate with? Well, that's it. That's our discussion of the directory. Thanks for watching this Alexio short course.